Alright, this is our last early civil rights movement video. This one's called Separate Societies. There actually exists a group of people called separatists, and they didn't want to integrate and have equal rights. They actually thought that separate equal was okay, as long as the equal was really fulfilled. So that's who we're keying on today. Now, first off, we need to talk about black nationalism. Now, black nationalism was actually started, really, if you can tell there, by Du Bois. Black nationalism is taking pride in who you are, taking pride in your race, and being proud of that, and standing up for yourself, and wanting better for yourself, and wanting to make something about it, okay? And Booker T. Washington's included in there, a lot of people, okay? Now, these black nationalism, they popped up all the places, and in fact in Harlem there was a newspaper called the Negro World, and this was actually run by a big black nationalist. His name is Marcus Garvey, and they promoted stories of hope and trying to promote, hey, you don't have to become like everybody else. You can be proud of who you are and just keep working, and things are going to get better. So let's talk about Marcus Garvey. Marcus Garvey, you can see the quote there, right? A people without the knowledge of their past history, origin, and culture is like a tree without roots. So Marcus Garvey really delved into what made African Americans, what made black people so special. And he came upon an interesting proposition, an interesting story. And that is the fact that there existed a country in Africa called Liberia. Now, Liberia in the 1800s was actually purchased by some senators in the United States with the goal of, if the former free slaves wanted to go back to Africa, to go back to their motherland, if they so wished, they could. And this country was set up. Now, the problem is, you can see on the map there, it's not very big. However, their flag looks pretty familiar, right? It should. Now, Liberia, of note, has actually had some pretty big basketball players and things of that nature who've come to this country. And they're easily assimilated. So, Liberia was there. A lot of people are living there at this point. A lot of them are going back after the slavery. Marcus Garvey gets hold of this idea. He thinks it's great. So he comes up with actually a black separatist movement. Now, what does it mean by black separatist? That means, okay, I'm proud of my culture. I'm proud of this. However, I want my own separate society. I want my own separate part of this country. And if you're not willing to give that to me, I want my own country, per se. Now, naturally, we're not even, Garvey's a little bit later in the 1920s. We're not even 100 years past the Civil War, and so they're not going to give them their own country. It's just not going to happen. Okay? So, Garvey is going to help organize what is called the UNIA, Universal Negro Improvement Association. And this was to promote, again, black nationalism and black separatism. It was mainly in Harlem, and Garvey is the champion, and he's trying to get these things going. So Garvey comes up with a plan, with help of the UNIA, called the Back to Africa movement. The whole goal was to get people, if they were willing, to go back to Africa. Okay? He actually went as far to purchase his own steamship line called the Black Star Steamship Line. Now, this was actually the downfall of Garvey because he lied about this and didn't. He got in trouble with some taxes, and he actually got in trouble and later deported. But he was pretty committed, right? I mean, you have your own country. I'm going to have my own steamship lines. Hey, you want to go back? Sure. Okay. Now, with that, some people did go back to Liberia. However, some people in the South were inspired by Garvey's words, inspired by Du Bois' words, and so they're going to make what is called the Great Migration. The Great Migration, you can see the map, it's when they left these big cities in the South and they migrated to these massive, what we call now urban centers in the North, places like Detroit and Chicago and Boston and Philadelphia and Milwaukee and all these places that really, really grew really quickly. Because, number one, they're going up there because, don't misunderstand this, it's not the fact that they were no prejudice up there, and there's a lot of prejudice in this country at that point. However, Jim Crow is not prevalent up there, and they were given a little more freedom than they had been given in the South. But the big reason was that's where the jobs are. The jobs were for unskilled labor in the North, and they flocked there. They migrated there within this country looking for jobs. All right? And that's the end of the first civil rights movement. We'll actually review that the first day of civil rights, and then we'll move into the rest of it, all right? But it comes up here because it's in the time of the Gilded Age. All right?